one of my favorite expressions that I learned early on is something called a no regrets move. You guys have probably heard that before too, but there are things that you can do and say, look, no matter what happens, we're going to be happy that we did this experiment, that we learned something from it, that we've embraced the new technology, or that we've tried something that we thought could help us.
You're listening to Founder Mode,
where we go deep with the people building and backing the future.
Today's episode's about private equity and AI, two massive forces that are finally converging in a real way. Jason, we've both seen what happens when founders chase hype without a plan. And today's guest helps turn AI potential into real outcomes.
Yeah, he's not chasing the trends. He's building the systems that make innovation sustainable.
Jason has worked across consulting, operating, investing, and now helps portfolio companies sort of scale smartly in a world where AI is changing how businesses are built. I mean, I've known Jason for a long time.
Yeah, right.
Now. My other Jason.
Yeah, no, I'm new Jason. This is old Jason.
Old Jason.
Yeah.
And we actually met in CrossFit 15
CrossFit
years
stories.
ago. And so going from lifting weights to now working with him in his private equity capacity on AI stuff has really been a change. But I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, me too. Let's bring him out.
All right. Jason, welcome to Founder Mode. You've helped scale companies on both sides of the table, operator, investor, and now you're kind of navigating what AI actually means for private equity. This episode's all about that intersection of where that's headed and what should we be been paying attention to. So let's dive in.
All right. Well, thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Jason. Great to meet you guys and spend some time together. From my perspective, I see this as a really great continuous learning challenge for all of us. We're looking at companies and seeing what's changing and what they've been able to build organically, and then getting really excited about how technology can enable that growth and can help us deepen both the customer and employee value proposition for everywhere we're engaged.
Yeah. So you've worked in consulting, operations, and now a growth-focused, private equity fund. What thread kind of connects all that for you, Jason?
Yeah. I mean, look, technology is the continuous thread.
Yeah.
It's become sort of cliche, I think, today to say everything's AI. You can be anything.
I hadn't heard about that.
Yeah. So what is that?
Yeah.
But really, if we peel it back, companies across the entire economic spectrum, and particularly healthcare services and other service companies that we look at, have been embracing technology just at a different pace. And what's happening now is that instead of having to go kind of hunt out a technology company, have them come to you and say, oh, here's how you do it the way that we think is best. Instead, AI has turned that on its head and say, let's look at your problems and let's help you solve the problems the way that you already know how to do them, and do it faster, do it better, do it cheaper, do it in a way that actually helps create more win-wins for you and for your customers.
Yeah, I love that. What led you to join AEA's growth arm, Elevate, and kind of what's your thesis for value creation in this moment that we're in right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. For me, it was the ability to focus on those service and healthcare services companies where there is this incredible opportunity. Between those two sectors, you could say that's maybe 70% of US GDP. So it's a pretty wide range of things that you might want to look at. But what we've tended to focus on, and what I find most interesting, is companies that have already managed to grow faster than their respective markets. So if they've been able to be out there proving that a business model is working, proving that they're doing something that's great, and that the customers are loving and really helping their employees be successful, then that's an established good business model. And the opportunity right now is to say, okay, well, how do we take AI and actually apply that to those business models to accelerate top line growth, and then to create those win-wins that we talked about earlier?
How do you think of deploying capital? I think it went through these phases of ZERP, and then it slowed down, and then AI early days, and then the explosion, and kind of now it's this crazy deployment where everybody's actually putting AI to use.
Yeah, that's a great observation. And I think everyone's putting AI to use. I think the value creation by AI is still not 100% clear. Everyone's read that MIT study.
Yes. We just talked about it.
Yeah, it's so good.
Seems to be the topic of the moment. And, are we in the valley of despair where the ROI is not that clear? I think that's probably where we are at a macro standpoint, is that there's been a lot of these initial pilots and now we're trying to sort through what works and what doesn't. One of the nice parts about being able to focus on smaller companies is that you can actually invest throughout any business cycle, and you don't have to be really beholden to the thing that everyone else is chasing. You can look at the micro of a particular company, and you can look at parts of the market where other people aren't maybe paying attention, or where you have a company that's doing something that's a little bit different, and then say, okay, I'm going to invest behind this group and not really have to chase where everyone else is going. And I think that it's one of the advantages of smaller size investments and not feeling the pressure to put tens of billions of dollars to work like some of the folks who are chasing after some of the big companies, obviously.
Yeah, in a frothy sort of cycle like this AI, the one that we're in, how do you kind of fuel growth without sort of overexposing yourself to like tech risk, where it's just like you've done too much too soon and maybe bought the wrong thing or too much of it?
Yeah, we talk about this all the time. One of my favorite expressions that I learned early on is something called a no regrets move. You guys have probably heard that before too, but there are things that you can do and say, look, no matter what happens, we're going to be happy that we did this experiment, that we learned something from it, that we've embraced the new technology, or that we've tried something that we thought could help us. And I think when you're doing that, you're encouraging two motions at the same time. One is innovation and learning amongst all the team members and with your customers, where you're doing that together. And the other thing is how to kill what's not working and measure what's not working. And one of those things that's hard to know is, well, how do you know what to kill? How do you know what's not working?
Yeah.
And for us, the primary focus is on ROI.
Yeah.
And when you're investing upfront, you want to say, okay, well, what are my objectives? Are we tracking towards that, and are we able to achieve it? And when it's not, don't be afraid to say no. Let's kill it. And I think setting aside a portion of your budget every year across functions to say, well, what does the AI first version of that look like? Has become substantially low risk for everyone.
Yeah.
Plenty of companies want to experiment for free, and we're embracing that.
Yeah. We talk a lot about the era of the idea guy.
Yeah.
It's finally my turn.
Yeah,
Kevin.
you're ready. You're ready.
With AI in the mix, Jason, what diligence signals matter most to you and the fund now? Is it team design, GTM, data advantage? Like, what are you looking at?
Yeah, team, 100%.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at new companies, you want to say, like, is this a team that has the core of the idea and knows how to drive that repeatable growth within their model? Mm-hmm. And if they do have at least a theory of that growth, then everything else you can build around. And often, and I would say always, that includes adding team members, right? That's part of growing and being successful.
Yeah.
But there's no, I would say, secret sauce that exists, at least that I've seen in these kind of companies, for go-to-market.
Yeah.
Nothing that like, oh yeah, like you can be 100 times better than someone else at go-to-market. Go-to-market is execution. Or data advantages. I mean, when you're in a service company, a data advantage can be temporary. You can have expertise, but fundamentally you're banking on the experience of your service professionals, right? And are they actually able to deliver what they say? And are they generating value for their customers? And the ones that, rise above the fray for us, that again, where you can invest across those business cycles, is when the customer value proposition reinforces the employee value proposition, usually allowing the service professionals to make more money.
Yeah, makes sense. So let's reality check some of these mega rounds. So Anthropic just raised, I think, like 10 billion or 13 billion at 183 billion post money. What is your kind of rubric framework for cutting through the hype? How do you navigate what's happening right now?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, look, I'm the last person in the world who should be commenting on Anthropic's round, other than to say congratulations. We're thrilled to leverage the foundational models that they're building, as well as other, really leading companies out there. And, from my perspective, I think we're just at the very beginning of some of these really important companies being built. And the question that I'm thinking about as it relates to the service companies we're investing in is, well, how is the rest of the economy going to embrace these foundational models? And where the profit pools go for those these new companies is, I think, an open question. And does the profit pool go to the foundational model provider? Certainly, there's some things that they're already driving huge revenue and huge growth, and they're going to keep doing more things. Is there a service layer or a software layer on top of that? And how can in the end, companies who are doing real things for real people take advantage of all of that? I think that there's a huge opportunity in there because of the bespoke nature of many problems and the fact that most companies want to keep doing things in a way that's special for them and creates a greater defensible moat to allow them to grow in their respective markets.
When you look at these valuations kind of on the AI side, like how has that changed the kind of businesses you target and like how you price them? Like because this like AI thing exists, whether it's the crazy values or the fact that just all this new AI tech's coming out, like is that changing your guys' either deal flow or sort of deal analysis or sort of the rubric you're using?
Yeah, a little bit. I would say technology has always been an enabler of what we're doing. And now this is like AI, which is just the acceleration. We've been talking about that already.
Yeah.
But I would say the level of conviction on what that AI transformation can bring is a little bit new. I think there's an element where we can say what we can transform with AI has to be sort of critical to that future value creation. And the other thing that has happened with AI from my perspective is it's created some maybe higher risk for zeros than there used to be, because there are some systemic things that are out there where you'd say, well, this may not exist anymore as an industry in the future. Or something that you thought was going to be immune from ever being competed away. You might worry about it. Like at one end of the spectrum, I think about that there used to be lots of companies where you would pay them to do the kind of market research that you can now do with deep research on ChatGPT by yourself. Well, what's the implication of that? Like you better be adding value to the research, right? You better be understanding what's there. And lots of companies are doing that and still delivering results. And this is still hard, but you wouldn't maybe want to be someone who just wrote market research reports only.
And then there's a lot of the kind of what I would call traditional VCs now doing these PE style roll-ups, or at least saying they're going to go do them. Like, are you actually seeing like them competing for the deals you're in? And like, does it change your playbook at all?
Yeah, it's a great question. This is the PE roll-up seems to be a very popular theme amongst VCs these days. And the way I think I
jealous, they're just jealous.
The way I view it is that the PE firms have something to learn from the VC firms about imagining what can be. That used to be not a skill that you had to do all the time in PE. You could just look at what is and underwrite what is there. And now you have to get better and more creative about what can be in the future. And I think that's key to the success of the transformations that I'm excited about. On the VC side, it feels like I'm able to have a different level of conversation with my friends in VC these days and think about where are there opportunities to collaborate? Where are they ahead on the technology, and where can we learn things that will help? And where can we share pieces of the private equity value creation playbook that has become a particular topic of interest as funds are looking to kind of grow and find more ways to put capital to work.
And how would you say the PE playbooks changed in 2025 or maybe even going into 2026? And how is it different from like this kind of old school finance spreadsheet EBITDA focused version? And I know you've always been, because we've known each other for a while, like on this kind of like more operator centric, like, hey, how do you apply technology? But, are the sort of old guard of the finance driven sort of, hey, we just go apply more debt? Like, are they sort of coming out of that and saying, hey, we got to kind of have a balanced approach?
Yeah, I think so. Private equity is an industry that's grown tremendously. It's constantly needing to reinvent themselves, and it's intensely competitive. And the way I would see it is less about old school, new school, and more of when private equity was first invented, just borrowing debt to buy a company was a skill that was actually enough to create a strong MOI for your investors. Then it became, that's a commodity. And the next thing is you have to figure out how to add value. And what that meant was opening doors, providing connections, bringing sage wisdom to your board through independent directors and hiring third-party consultants. And that, I think, era of PE has evolved, and we've sort of maybe peaked and is eclipsed to that sort of commodity now. And the next thing is, if you're going to buy a company, you better have a belief in what you can personally bring to the table. How can you unlock growth, and how can you help that company embrace technology?
Not just capital.
Not just capital. Capital is the commodity. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
The real value add is making a difference.
Yeah. Let's get into that, and let's get tactical. So after you make an investment, right, what do you actually do in the first 180 days to move the underlying kind of EBITDA and unit economics and the financials for the business using AI and technology? What's your playbook now?
Yeah, there's two components. The first is the team. We talked a lot about that. It's establishing with the leadership team, what do we need to have? What are the missing roles? Where do we need to add talent? Complementing that is, what we call the value creation plan of the 3 to 4 most important things that company needs to do in order to achieve the investment objectives, which are articulated both in terms of financials and the type of company that we would like the company to be at the end of our investment period. And each one of those, whether it's a go-to-market goal or a tech goal or product management goal, is defined, has a single leader, and is in place to be able to be executed inside of the company. It's the most typical kind of thing that sounds easy to do, but is actually quite hard.
Yeah.
Because to get everyone on the same page and moving in the right direction is a real art.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Where does AI come into play when you're kind of looking at these smaller teams versus larger ones, and where does it kind of break down? How are you seeing it deployed well?
Yeah, what's I think working really, really well is a consistent set of small wins across every company. So if you look back and say, this company wasn't using AI at all, now at least we have ChatGPT Enterprise or an equivalent. We're using these sort of consumer tools as a thought partner with our private data.
Yeah.
That's a big step in the right direction. I think where things are maybe more sophisticated, like what we strive for is looking at each function and looking at each part of the business and saying, what does an AI first version of this look like? Where it's not working yet, I think, and it is yet because these things are changing so much, is in trying to assume that the AI can do everything for you. And I do think that if you don't dig in and try to use the tools from a first party standpoint, starting with the CEO and everyone on the executive team, you end up maybe considering AI as an IT project or something that is like on the side and something that is someone else's job.
Yeah.
And you're waiting for the results. And then you end up in this situation where you're actually not going to see the benefit. It'd be like imagining that Google came out and saying, oh yeah, I'm hiring someone to use Google for me. You just doesn't work that way.
And you end up in the 95%
20 years ago.
from
Exactly.
MIT that's not getting value. So when everyone is pitching, you and the fund kind of AI, operations, consulting, vendors, services, like how do you vet all these people coming at you? Kevin and I are particularly interested in this and pick what actually matters.
Yeah. So I think music to the ears of private equity is ROI.
Yeah.
Kevin and I have talked a lot about 5 to 1. That's a sort of minimum threshold of what is reasonable to expect. And I think there's even more. Private equity is also, for better or worse, used to being pitched things all the time. Pitched companies, pitched products, pitched services. They're known to be prolific buyers of things that help transform companies.
Yeah.
And so the more that you can dial in on, here's a problem, here's how I proved it before, and then here's the ROI, I think the more successful each of those pitches is going to be.
What sectors, switching gears a little bit, what sectors do you think are the most ripe for this sort of like AI-driven value creation, with what you're sort of looking at or seeing?
Yeah. We're really excited about healthcare. It's a major focus for our fund, and it's an area where the healthcare professional is the true expert in the room, but there's plenty of opportunities to make their lives better,
Yeah.
to make the patient experience better, to reduce administrative work to make the entire sort of experience of being in healthcare something that returns to the original mission of why everyone became a doctor in the first place. And COVID was such a challenging time for all healthcare professionals, I mean, for the whole world, really, but especially hard on healthcare professionals, that I think it's easy to forget that where we were in the trauma of that profession 5 years ago. And I think what an opportunity we have right now in working in any healthcare business to realign with the mission and really deliver against that.
I think about watching these like old movies where the like doctor makes the house call coming in with the sack and just, it's like the true like provider and patient. And like that was it, right? And now there's like, this whole, industry of things and layers and infrastructure around
10x number of administrators versus
it's wild.
HCPs.
Exactly.
So again, like kind of jumping around a little bit, when you guys deploy capital, how do you adjust when the macro shifts, right? Like the money's in the market, you've invested in companies, and there's some big things, big macro changes happening. What is your approach? Are you kind of looking, PE funds, I think 3 to 5 years, trying to kind of make that happen? How do you think about this and how do you look at the macro?
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways I'd answer that question. One is the kind of macro that nobody expects, which COVID is the most recent one that we all lived through. And in that case, it's all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Bring the best of what you can do, figure out how you're going to navigate it, right? Go through it. And, whatever changes kind of are out there, you just have to embrace it with an openness and a team approach and a humility that we're all learning and doing this for the first time. The other side would be to say, in 100% of cases, when you do an investment and you are living with that, things that you don't expect to happen. It's a guarantee, right? And in that situation, I try to separate things between what you can control and what you can't. Maybe some non-attachment to the things that you can't control to pull.
It's wise.
Pull on that a little bit, and then say the things you can control. We work on them together, and we all recognize that there's something that's not working. Starts with understanding the problem, and then trying to solve it.
Yeah, that makes sense. How do you see AI affecting the exit strategies and value creation paths in the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, for any portfolio company, I think both revenue growth and margin expansion that you previously might not have imagined are now available, and we are seeing that across the really like quick win areas in go-to-market, personalized marketing, customer support, productivity enhancements, removing back office labor that's doing repetitive tasks, and allowing people to really perform their highest and best use in the function. And we see that across companies that we might not have known that AI was going to create this opportunity, but there's a real chance to be the first mover in your niche market to go do that effectively.
You talk about the back end of the deal, like on the other side of the deal, what advice would you give to a founder who wants to work with a PE partner, and especially when it comes to thinking beyond just like the valuation, the paycheck?
Yeah, I mean, seeking investors who have humility, I think, is the most important thing. If someone's willing to share with you stories where things haven't worked and what is going to happen when things inevitably go a way you don't expect when you're working together, I think that's a big differentiator. A lot of people love to talk about successes, but failures are never anyone's problem.
Success.
And so, digging in on some of those stories when you're evaluating and thinking about who's the right person to work with, I think is a really important screening criteria that often gets undersold.
And finally, what's one kind of AI trend that you would say is still early, but you're sort of excited about?
What isn't early already in AI?
All of it.
All of it is early to me at this point. As I was thinking about I've learned something new every day. I've picked up my computer every day. I look on X every day. I listen to a podcast. There's something new to be learning, and I think we're going to be in that mode for a long time.
Where can listeners follow your work or get in touch?
Love to connect with me on LinkedIn. Nice. We're also old school on email, so totally open to that.
We can share your email in the show notes.
Yeah.
And what's the website for the fund?
We're at aeaelevate.com.
Thanks so much for being here, man. This was such a good conversation, sharp, grounded, super relevant. Just appreciate you, Jason.
Thanks for the time.
Thanks, man. That was the kind of conversation that really makes you rethink, capital and product and how they actually intersect.
Yeah, Jason's perspective and his lens is rare. He doesn't just talk like a money guy, right?
No.
He thinks about the team, the people, and kind of putting the pieces on the board and the framework to actually turn an investment into real value creation. What were your top 5, Kevin?
Top 5 for today were sort of as these macro shocks land, which we've had plenty of them in the last decade. It's sort of splitting things into what you can control and what you can't. And then understanding the things you can control, how do you work together as a team to really figure that out?
Right.
And then with AI, it's really thinking about splitting that into seeing both what it can do for the revenue side and also margin expansion. And where they've seen success so far is GTM, support, and then sort of that back office, that messy, thing that's just like, kind of a cost center.
Right.
3 was really this notion that you should be thinking AI first and not just like doing spot patches on things and really making that a core project and not just thinking it as, hey, something IT rolls out.
Yeah.
And then 4th, it's like this idea of like experiments being no regrets and that you're going to try something, you're going to do it. And if it works out, you learn something and you make some money. That's great. If it doesn't work out, you still learn something and that's okay.
Yeah.
And then finally, look, his view is that healthcare is really the ripest opportunity to sort of cut admin, sort of back to the basics of like patients and providers, right?
Yeah.
All these other things that sort of have grown, the 10x sort of admin things that have exploded over the time, in really seeing that this is a ripe opportunity to go after.
If this gave you a clearer way to think about AI, value creation, or partnering with investors, send it to someone in your orbit that's building in this space.
And if you're not already subscribed, do it. Drop a review or a comment and get this to more builders and backers like you. And that's a wrap, because capital is no longer dumb money. It's strategic and accelerating.